Biker rips waitress's shirt. What's revealed shocks the whole bar. Don't miss this jaw-dropping moment. Hit subscribe and watch how one symbol changes everything in an instant. The bar was alive with music, laughter, and clinking glasses. The kind of energy that made every visitor feel both at home and on edge. Amid the chaos, a waitress weaved carefully through the crowded floor, balancing a tray stacked high with drinks. Patrons barely noticed her as they shouted over the booming speakers, completely absorbed in their own worlds. Then, without warning, a large biker barreled through the crowd, too close for comfort. He bumped into her, sending her tray tilting dangerously. Time seemed to slow, every eye turning toward the commotion as a sudden rip tore through the air. Gasps erupted instantly, sharp and collective, slicing through the music like a knife. Patrons froze mid-laugh, their drinks half-raised, their conversations halted abruptly. The waitress's heart slammed against her ribs as she clutched at her torn shirt, her face heating with embarrassment. She couldn't move, couldn't speak, rooted to the spot as her pulse thundered in her ears. The biker, tall and rugged, froze too, his fingers hovering awkwardly in mid-air. His expression was a mix of shock and panic, as if he had just realized the gravity of what he'd done. Chaos rippled through the bar, tension thick enough to taste. Then it happened. Behind the torn fabric, something unexpected emerged, catching the attention of every patron in the room. It was not what anyone anticipated. A tattoo, intricate and detailed, sprawled across her skin like a story written in ink. Or perhaps it was a symbol, small but commanding, its design sharp and almost unnatural in its precision. Some swore they saw an object, metallic, hidden but gleaming in the dim bar lights. Silence fell suddenly, heavy and suffocating. Phones were raised instinctively, eyes wide with curiosity and awe as everyone tried to understand what they were witnessing. The biker's gaze locked onto it, and the air seemed to thicken around him. His eyes, usually brimming with defiance, widened in sudden recognition. His body went still, like a predator caught in the glare of a larger force. There was something in that symbol, something personal, something powerful, that froze him in place. He could barely breathe, his hands trembling subtly, betraying the shock that his face tried to hide. The crowd leaned forward as if magnetized by the tension, their fascination mingling with fear. 1,000 silent questions hung in the air, each one heavier than the last. Whispers began to ripple through the room, soft at first, then louder as speculation spread like wildfire. "Is that? No way. I've seen that somewhere before." Patrons craned their necks, straining to get a better look without crossing the line of respect or fear. The waitress's own shock gave way to something else, a strange calm settling in her chest. Despite the chaos, despite the ripped fabric and the staring eyes, she maintained her composure. There was a message in that symbol, a story embedded in its details, one that demanded acknowledgement. And everyone, especially the biker, could feel its weight. The bartender paused mid-pour, frozen by curiosity and tension alike. Music seemed distant now, reduced to a dull hum as the room held its collective breath. Even the rowdiest patrons fell silent, their attention captured by the impossible. Every movement in the bar was cautious now, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of shock and revelation. The waitress straightened slowly, letting the torn edges of her shirt hang naturally, not rushing to cover the mark. She knew that in this moment, something unspoken had shifted. A line had been drawn, and everyone present understood it, even if they couldn't articulate why. The biker's focus never wavered, his usually fierce demeanor replaced with a haunted stillness. He opened his mouth, perhaps to speak, but no words came. His eyes darted, searching, almost desperate, as if the tattoo or object held answers he had spent years avoiding. The crowd sensed the tension, leaning closer, whispering among themselves, caught between fear and fascination. The bar had transformed from a place of ordinary merriment to something else entirely, a stage for a revelation no one saw coming. All eyes remained fixed, all hearts raced, as everyone waited for the inevitable next move. And then, as seconds stretched into an eternity, the bartender's eyes met the waitress's, a silent understanding passing between them. Something significant had been revealed, but the meaning remained a mystery. The biker still froze, and the crowd's curiosity reached a boiling point. Every patron wondered the same thing, their thoughts unanimous yet unspoken. What could it mean? The question lingered, echoing through the bar louder than any music, heavier than any shout. It was a moment suspended in time, and the answer was still just out of reach, waiting to shatter the fragile calm with revelation. The bar remained silent. The music reduced to a faint, distant hum, almost like it had been swallowed by the tension in the room. The waitress stood upright, her composure unshaken, despite the embarrassment of the torn shirt. She glanced at the biker, noting the paleness of his face, the way his hands twitched involuntarily. Every patron's gaze was locked on the symbol now revealed, some holding their breath, some leaning forward, unable to look away. There was an unspoken understanding in the air. Something extraordinary had been uncovered, and it had nothing to do with the bar, the drinks, or the music. The tattoo, or perhaps it was more than that, was intricate, a web of lines and patterns that seemed to pulse with meaning. It bore a symbol not familiar to most, but unmistakably commanding. Some in the room sensed authority, others danger. The object seemed to carry a story, a history that instantly connected to the biker. Recognition hit him like a thunderbolt, his eyes widening further, his jaw tightening. The emblem wasn't just decoration, it was a marker of a secret identity, a hidden affiliation, or perhaps a dangerous past that even he hadn't expected to confront in a crowded bar. Whispers grew louder as the realization spread. Is that impossible? No way, she's... Phones emerged from pockets, flashes clicking as some patrons tried to capture the moment. The bar, once chaotic with music and laughter, had transformed into a theater of suspense. Every eye studied the waitress and the symbol, trying to decipher what it meant. Tension hung thick in the air, electric and charged, as the biker's frozen stare met the collective curiosity of the crowd. Something unspoken yet undeniable radiated from that tattoo or object, marking the room with awe and fear. The waitress met the biker's gaze steadily, her calmness both unnerving and commanding. She did not flinch under the intensity of his stare, nor did she hurry to cover the mark. Her composure conveyed authority, a silent message that she was aware of the power she now held over the moment. The biker, on the other hand, seemed paralyzed by realization, as if a door to his past had swung open unexpectedly. Every muscle in his body betrayed his unease, the usual confidence replaced with the subtle tremors of shock and recognition. The crowd reacted in waves, first with murmurs, then with audible gasps. Some patrons exchanged hurried whispers, speculating on the implications. Others, braver or more curious, pulled out their phones, capturing the scene with the understanding that they were witnessing something rare, something extraordinary. A sense of tension gripped the room, uniting the patrons in their shared astonishment. It was a moment where reality and disbelief collided, and no one could predict what would happen next. The air was charged, almost as if the bar itself had become a participant in the drama unfolding within its walls. The biker's breathing grew shallow, his eyes darting between the symbol and the waitress, struggling to reconcile what he was seeing with what he knew. There was a link, a connection to a past he had tried to leave behind. Something powerful and dangerous. It was clear to anyone watching that this emblem held meaning beyond the ordinary, a connection to influence, power, or a hidden network he could not ignore. The room's energy intensified, each person sensing that they were witnessing more than just a personal revelation. It was a public confrontation of secrets long buried. The waitress, however, remained composed. She did not speak immediately, but let the silence stretch, allowing the tension to reach its peak. Then, slowly, she straightened fully, a subtle, confident smile forming on her lips. It was a smile that diffused the fear and uncertainty around her without diminishing the gravity of the revelation. Her calm presence shifted the dynamic, subtly taking control of the moment. The biker, recognizing her composure and the power of what had been revealed, felt his stance change, a mixture of respect, caution, and awe settling over him. Patrons continued to whisper, their eyes glued to the scene. Phones clicked. Flashes lit the dim corners, capturing reactions ranging from disbelief to excitement. Even those at the back of the bar leaned forward, straining to witness every subtle exchange of glances and body language. The atmosphere was electric, a combination of suspense, revelation, and admiration. The waitress's quiet command of the situation had transformed the chaotic bar into a moment of storybook tension, leaving everyone in the room holding their breath, waiting for what would come next. Finally, the biker exhaled, a long, almost defeated sound, as he absorbed the meaning of the symbol. His body language softened, the defiance that had once marked his presence replaced by acknowledgement. It was clear to all present that the revelation had shifted his perception entirely. Respect, fear, and awe mingled in his eyes, and the bar seemed to exhale along with him. The waitress, still composed, had guided the encounter to its conclusion without a single word spoken. The room held onto the moment, aware that something had changed irrevocably, and the question lingered in every mind. No one expected this, not even him.